You know, when people talk about places that change you permanently, they usually mean like a beautiful mountaintop or a quiet beach, someplace serene, right? Someplace that fills you with awe and wonder, leaves you feeling refreshed and inspired. Not a building, especially not one that smells like old secrets and forgotten screams, one that just leaks an oppressive atmosphere from every single crack in its plaster. But for me, it was a hotel. The Cecil Hotel. And what happened there? It wasn't just a change. It was an unraveling, a tearing apart of everything I thought I knew about reality, about the thin veil between what we see and what we feel, and honestly, about myself. It was like a piece of my soul got left behind in that place, clinging to the dust and the shadows. I still see it. Every time I close my eyes, or when the lights go out, or when I'm just alone in the quiet. The shadows that writhed on the walls. The faces that seemed to emerge from the darkness, just for a flicker. And I hear the echoes, not just of the city outside, but something deeper, something within those walls, especially the dripping. Oh God, the dripping. It never stops. My name's Chloe. I was 24 at the time, fresh out of film school, bursting with ideas, full of that youthful optimism that makes you think you can conquer anything, but also totally broke like most aspiring creatives in Los Angeles. I was trying to make it as a documentary filmmaker, focusing on urban legends and local mysteries, not the cheesy jump scare ghost hunting kind necessarily, more the human element, the historical context, the stories behind the stories. I wanted to tell tales that lingered, that made you think, not just jump. I'd heard about the Cecil Hotel, of course. Who hadn't? If you lived in LA, or honestly, if you were just remotely interested in true crime or the macabre, it was infamous. Located right on the edge of Skid Row in downtown LA. This imposing, somewhat crumbling structure that had this reputation, a dark one. Suicides, murders, mysterious disappearances, all packed into its long, grim history. Even a couple of notorious serial killers had reportedly stayed there. Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, was rumored to have lived there for a while, stalking the very streets I was walking. It was a magnet for the macabre, a lightning rod for tragedy, and for a budding filmmaker looking for a compelling, truly chilling narrative, it felt like gold. A twisted, dark kind of gold, but gold nonetheless. My pitch was simple. The Shadows of the Cecil, a legacy of darkness. I wanted to explore why this place seemed to attract such profound tragedy. Was it just a coincidence, a mere statistical anomaly given its location and age? Or was there something deeper, something inherent in the very fabric of the building? A psychic imprint, or something even more sinister? I managed to secure a shockingly cheap room. Surprisingly cheap. Even for downtown LA, which probably should have been my first red flag. Honestly, and planned to stay for a week. Just me, my slightly worn camera gear, my laptop, and a whole lot of research notes piled high. I remember walking into that lobby for the very first time. It was like stepping back in time. Not in a charming, nostalgic way, but in a way that felt stagnant, heavy. The air was thick, oppressive. Like a velvet curtain had been dropped over everything, muffling sound and light. And there was this smell. It wasn't quite musty, not quite stale, not just old hotel. It was something else, something I couldn't place then. But now looking back, I'd describe it as old. Dried blood mixed with forgotten perfume and a hint of something metallic. A chill went right through me, even though it was a sweltering LA summer day. The kind where the heat presses down on you. I just chalked it up to, the vibe, the history. The weight of all those forgotten lives. I had no idea. It was just getting started. I had no idea how deeply that place would embed itself into my psyche. My room was on the 10th floor. Nothing fancy, definitely no frills. Just a single bed, a small desk, and a window that looked out onto, mostly other grimy brick buildings and a network of rusty fire escapes. Not exactly a scenic view. The first couple of days were honestly pretty uneventful. I spent my time mostly in the lobby, or wandering the lower floors, interviewing staff, those who would talk anyway, which weren't many, and trying to piece together the hotel's horrifying timeline of tragedies. I filmed the hallways trying to capture that eerie atmosphere. I filmed the infamous stairwells winding up into dimness, and of course the creepy old elevator, the one that everyone knew the stories about. But then, little things started, subtle at first, almost imperceptible, things you could, easily explain away with a logical thought. I'd be reviewing footage late at night, hunched over my laptop, and I'd catch these flashes, like a shadow darting across the background, just at the edge of the frame, when I knew for a fact no one was supposed to be there. Or a strange, almost whispering sound on the audio track, barely audible, like someone breathing too close to the microphone. I'd rewind, play it back, pixel by pixel trying to pinpoint it, and it would be gone. Just static or the normal hum of the building. My brain was probably playing tricks on me, I figured. Late nights, the pressure of the project, maybe a little too much caffeine. That had to be it. Then there was the water. The water pressure in the bathroom was terrible. Which, fine, it's an old building. You expect that with vintage plumbing. But sometimes when I turned on the tap, the water would come out. Dark, murky, like mud or stagnant pond water. And it had this metallic smell, like old pennies. Rust, I told myself, just old pipes, nothing to worry about. But it happened more than once, and not always after a long period of disuse. And one morning I swore I saw something else in the water. Something dark and stringy. Something that made my stomach lurch. Before it swirled down the drain with the murky flow. I almost gagged right there. It was just unsettling. And the sounds. Oh God, the sounds. They started soft, then grew. I'd be trying to sleep, curled up under the thin hotel sheets, and I'd hear it. Not just the regular city noises, the distant sirens or the hum of traffic. This was different. Scrabbling sounds from inside the walls, like something was trapped, desperately trying to get out. Or maybe trying to get in, and these faint muffled thumps from the room directly above me. Even though I had confirmed with the front desk that it was supposed to be empty, had been for weeks. It wasn't the sound of heavy footsteps, more like something being dragged across the floor. It started to feel like the hotel itself was alive. Not just an inanimate building, but a living, breathing entity, listening, watching, waiting. The subtle stuff, the things I could explain away, quickly morphed into something undeniably wrong. Undeniably supernatural, even to my skeptical documentary filmmaker brain. I was back in my room one evening, organizing notes on my desk when I heard it clearly. Not a muffled sound, not a vague whisper, but clear as day, footsteps, slow, dragging footsteps, distinct and heavy, coming from right outside my door, just on the other side of the flimsy wood. I froze. My hand clutched my pen, my breath caught in my throat, my heart started pounding like a drum solo, a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I held my breath, listening, desperate for it to stop. But they didn't. They came closer, creak by creak, until they stopped, right outside my door. I could almost feel someone standing there, a heavy, cold presence on the other side of the wood. My hand instinctively went to the doorknob, a foolish, desperate urge to know, but I pulled back just as quickly. What if I opened it? What would I see? What would they do? I eventually forced myself to peek through the peephole. Nothing. Just the dim, empty hallway stretching out into shadow. My own reflection stared back at me, wide-eyed and terrified. I even checked the small, discreet security camera I'd set up in the hall, just for ambient shots, to add to the documentary. It showed nothing, no one. Just the same empty hallway. My blood ran cold. Was I finally losing my mind, or was it something that the camera couldn't see? Something that existed just outside the visible spectrum? The next night, it escalated further. I woke up suddenly, jolted awake by a profound sense of unease. My room was freezing, even though I hadn't touched the thermostat. And it was still summer in LA, and there was this stench, like something decaying, putrid like rotten meat left out in the sun. It made my stomach churn. Bile rising in my throat. I stumbled out of bed, fumbling for the light switch, desperate for illumination. As soon as the dim overhead light flickered on, the smell was gone. Just like that. But I couldn't shake the terrifying feeling that something had been in the room, with me, standing right there, over me, watching me sleep. My skin still crawled with phantom touches. The worst part, though, was the elevator. You know, the one where Elisa Lam was found. The student who disappeared and was later found in the water tank on the roof. The one with the bizarre security footage of her acting, strangely, waving her arms like she was talking to someone unseen. I had to use it, obviously, to get to and from my room. And every single time I stepped in, I felt this overwhelming sense of dread, this suffocating weight. The doors would close with a soft hiss, and I'd feel this oppressive presence, like the air was suddenly too thick to breathe, pressing in on me from all sides. And sometimes it would just stop. Between floors. Just stop! The lights would flicker, plunge into darkness for a few agonizing seconds, and I'd hear faint, distorted sounds, like whimpers or choked gasps. I'd bang on the buttons, my heart in my throat desperate to escape, until it would lurch back to life with a sickening groan. One day I was in the lobby, reviewing some footage on my laptop, trying to distract myself from the growing paranoia. I had filmed the hotel's ancient, rusted fire escape, thinking it might be a cool visual element for the documentary. As I played it back, frame by agonizing frame, a tiny, almost invisible detail caught my eye. In one of the windows high up, just for a split second, a face, a gaunt, pale face, staring directly into the camera. It looked desperate, terrified, like it was trapped, silently begging for help. I gasped, a choked sound, and dropped my laptop onto the worn carpet. When I replayed it, rewound it, slowed it down, it was gone. Just a blurry window, a trick of the light. I swear to God it was there. And it wasn't just a reflection. This was something else. Something utterly horrifyingly real. I started to wonder if I was truly losing my mind, spiraling into a breakdown. Or if the hotel was doing it for me. Slowly, methodically picking apart my sanity. It was my last night. My 7 days were up and I was counting every single second until I could get out. I was packing up my meager belongings, feeling a desperate, almost physical need to just leave. I'd gotten enough footage, I told myself, more than enough. I just wanted out of that suffocating place. I just wanted to breathe air that didn't feel heavy with ghosts. As I was zipping up my main bag, the dull sound of the zipper loud in the quiet room, I heard it, clear as day, from the bathroom. A faint, almost melodic splashing, like someone was playing in the bathtub, playful even. My blood ran cold. Absolute zero. The water pressure in this hotel was barely a trickle, let alone enough for splashes like that. And I was the only one in the room. I had triple-checked. There was no way. I slowly, so slowly, walked towards the bathroom door. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to run, to just get out, to not look. But this insane, morbid curiosity, this compelling, self-destructive urge pulled me forward, one agonizing step after another. I had to know. The door was slightly ajar, just a few inches. A thin strip of light from the main room spilled into the oppressive darkness of the bathroom, and through that narrow crack I could see it. The bathtub. It was full to the brim with dark, murky water, almost black, and something was in it, thrashing, splashing, not playfully, now violently, like something was struggling, fighting for its life or against its death. My breath caught in my throat, a dry, rasping sound. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't move. My feet felt rooted to the spot, concrete blocks. And then as I watched horrified, a hand rose from the water, a pale, slender hand. It wasn't just pale, it was floated, pruny, like it had been submerged for a very, very long time, waterlogged and discolored. And then slowly, agonizingly slowly, a head broke the surface. Her face. Oh God, her face. It was the woman from the elevator footage, Elisa Lam. Her hair was plastered to her face, dripping dark water. Her eyes were wide open, staring right at me, but they were vacant, lifeless, hollow. Her mouth was agape in a silent scream, a horrifying rictus. Water streamed from her hair, from her open mouth, forming small, dark rivulets down her unnaturally white, almost translucent face. And then slowly, agonizingly slowly, her head began to tilt. Her neck creaked, a wet, sickening sound that echoed in the tiny room, and she started to sink, back into the dark water like a stone, her eyes never leaving mine, fixed on me until the very last moment. I screamed. A primal, guttural scream that tore from my throat, raw and desperate. I stumbled backward, falling, scrambling on the floor, trying to get away from the image burned into my retina. I didn't even close the bathroom door. I just ran. I didn't grab my bags, my expensive equipment, my entire livelihood. Nothing. I flew out of that room, down the deserted hallway, desperate for the stairs. I couldn't face the elevator, not now, not ever again. I could hear my own ragged breathing, echoing in the deserted hallway, loud in my ears. Each step pounded in my ears a frantic drumbeat of terror. I didn't stop until I was out on the street, gasping for air. The cool night air doing nothing to calm the fire in my lungs, or the ice in my veins. I just ran. I don't remember much after that. It's mostly a blur of shock and adrenaline. I called a friend, incoherent, sobbing, trying to explain something utterly inexplicable. She picked me up, bless her heart, didn't ask too many questions. I just remember the profound, overwhelming relief of being away from that place, the cold air on my face. I never went back for my stuff, wouldn't. I just couldn't bring myself to step foot in that building ever again. It's been years now, more than half a decade, and I haven't made another documentary. Not like that. Not about mysteries or urban legends. I try to work on other things, more mundane, safe topics, but the spark is gone. The curiosity is still there deep down, but it's tainted with this profound, soul-crashing fear. Every shadow seems to hold a secret, waiting to reveal something horrifying. Every unexpected sound sends a jolt of terror through me, making me jump out of my skin. I sleep with the lights on sometimes. Honestly, a lot of the time, the dim glow of a nightlight or a bedside lamp providing a small comfort against the darkness. My friends, they say I need help. That I'm traumatized, that it was just a nightmare or a panic attack. And yeah, maybe I am. Maybe it was. But it wasn't just a bad experience, a fleeting fright. It was a revelation, a horrifying glimpse behind the veil, a peek into a reality that shouldn't exist. I saw something that wasn't supposed to be seen. Something that shouldn't be possible. Something that still watches. Final chill. And sometimes I still feel it. That cold, wet hand, brushing against my skin in the dark when I'm just drifting off to sleep. And I know with a chilling, bone-deep certainty that the Cecil Hotel didn't just watch people die within its walls. It absorbed them. It took them in, and now they're a part of its very being, its dark, hungry soul. And it's always hungry, always waiting for the next story or the next soul to claim. And every time it rains, I hear the dripping. And I wonder if the water ever really stops running. Up there in room 1032.